Hi, everybody. Happy November. I'm Lauren Hogan. I'm NAEYC's Managing Director for Policy and Professional Advancement. And as you can tell, Alyssa is not joining us for this month's 5 Things to Know, but that is because she has kindly turned over the platform to me and my colleague, Lucy Recio, NAEYC's Director of Advocacy, because we have some really big news to share with you all.
That's right. And as many of you know, since the onset of the pandemic, NAEYC has been tirelessly building on our history of advocating for the early learning sector. And thanks to you, your willingness to complete our surveys, call your members of Congress, share your stories, and be part of our advocacy efforts, we were able to secure more than $50 billion in relief for childcare. Yet we have continued our advocacy because we know that so much is desperately needed to stabilize the childcare sector and really address the foundational challenges and issues our sector has faced for decades. And on October 28th, we witnessed a tremendously exciting step forward towards achieving our collective long-time goal of securing a substantial, sustainable federal investment in a high-quality, accessible, affordable, mixed delivery early childhood education system that supports an equitable, diverse, well-prepared, and well-compensated early childhood education workforce, which is why this month's edition of 5 Things to Know will focus exclusively on federal advocacy work, but with a twist, as Lauren and I will share 2 things you need to know and 3 things we hope you'll understand the need to do. So Lauren, why don't you kick us off with the first thing that NAEYC's accredited early learning programs need to know?
I would love to. So the first thing that you need to know is that President Biden announced a framework for the Build Back Better plan at the end of last month, prioritizing the inclusion of $400 billion, and yes, that's a billion with a B, in simultaneous investments for childcare and preschool. The framework of Build Back Better thoughtfully and comprehensively seeks to boost the wages of early childhood educators, yay for compensation, build the supply of desperately needed childcare slots, yay for supply, and lower costs for more families, yay for affordability. This is an important moment to put all of these pieces together and talk about how important it is to move all of these things forward at the same time.
While this is a remarkable testament to the tenacity and will of champions in Congress and the administration, and to your incredible advocacy work that has brought the needs of children, families, educators, and the economy to the spotlight, the second thing you need to know is that our fight is not over until the president signs the bill. And part of what we need to do right now is make sure that Congress understands that there is substantial support for the early childhood education provisions in the bill, and that we need and want them to pass it. So that now leads us to the 3 things we need you to do.
So there's a lot in the Build Back Better plan that we want to make sure you know about, since it will directly affect the realities of your programs, your staff, the families that you work with. So in order to make sure that you all have the consistent and updated information that you need, we partnered with a lot of our national organization friends to organize a field-wide webinar titled The New Federal Investment, a Childcare Entitlement, Universal Pre-K, and What's Next. The first thing we need you to do, if you haven't already, is watch the recording of this webinar and share it with other programs and colleagues in your networks. We're going to link to the recording of the webinar below. The webinar is in English with Spanish interpretation, and it's available for you to watch anytime.
That's simple enough. What else can our accredited programs do, Lauren?
Okay, so after you've watched the webinar recording, some things are going to keep changing. This is a long process and we're not at the end of it yet. So the second thing that we need you to do is take just a few minutes to reach out to your member of Congress to let them know that you need and want them to pass the Build Back Better plan. Reaching out to them is going to take you less than 5 minutes, we promise, but the impact of this outreach will last a lifetime, and we are not kidding about that. We have been in this fight for longer than most of our lifetimes, and we need the impact to feel deeply about what happens right now. You can click the link below to make sure that your federal elected officials hear directly from you.
Now, the last, but definitely not the least, final thing that we need you to do is to share your story. As states continue to move on the American Rescue Plan Act stabilization grants in support of childcare programs, educators, and families, the White House and members of Congress are very interested in hearing stories about what the stabilization funds have meant for you and your program, and why passing Build Back Better is so important to have continued sustainable success. Make sure you share your program story using the link below. And since we need all voices to weigh in, share this link along with the ask that your colleagues share their stories on Facebook pages, directors' WhatsApp chats, the listservs that connect directors in your area, or whatever other vehicle you rely on to stay connected to other directors, because we know that these stories are incredibly important, have made a world of a difference in the fight so far, and continue to be impactful as we move this goal towards the finish line.
It's really true. And being able to hear not only about your challenges, but how relief has helped you survive and what more is needed has made all the difference in being able to continue to prioritize these investments in Congress and at your state level, which will be the next 5 minutes when we get a chance to come back and talk about how to move this forward next. To that end, since we know that staying connected and staying in community is what sustains us, we want to make sure that you're registered and are planning to join us for this year's annual conference. We've recorded some amazing conversations about policy and advocacy with some wonderful speakers, including programs directors and early childhood educators and NAEYC accredited programs and beyond. In addition, we want you to make sure that you save the date for NAEYC's 2022 Public Policy Forum, which will be held, wait for it, in person from February 27th to March 1st, 2022 in Washington, D.C. And for those of you who are wondering, we are working on also providing something for folks who may not be able to make it to Washington, D.C., but we really hope to see many of you in person this year with part of your state teams.
Absolutely. And so with that, I want to thank you, Lauren, for taking the time so that we can share this with all of you. And I want to send a special note of appreciation and gratitude to each and every one of you for the incredible work you do daily on behalf of young children in your programs and in partnership with your staff. We are incredibly grateful for you, and thank you for being an integral part of this work with us. Until next time, and as Lauren loves to say, stay safe, stay well, and stay tuned.
I know I had a tagline.
Bye, everyone.